Our show today takes us from the top of the water to the bottom. We use heavy blade lures to chase large pelagic fish before turning our attention to surface fishing for bread and butter species. Jigging blade lures is very popular in our estuaries and lakes. Adrian and I turned our hand to chasing larger ocean fare on these lures with surprisingly good results. It's a beautiful day, clear skies. Flat waters are sort of offshore fisherman's dream, really. And I'm out with a good mate of mine today, Adrian Lindsay. And we're here to do something a little bit different. The blade lure type has taken the lure fishing scene by storm, really, and it's really well known for catching fish like your brim and your flathead and stuff like that. Well, we're out here today to use some bigger prototypes and drop them into some slightly deeper water in an area where you can get some quite big critters. And it's going to be exciting. Who knows what we're going to come up against, because they are a popular lure choice, and I'm pretty sure they're going to work on some bigger fish. Just about on this bommy now, Adrian, so I reckon jigging these things up and down 7 or 8 metres of water, a nice little bommy which should hold some fish. I reckon that intense little vibration which these lures produce is going to be just the thing the doctor orders we'll see soon. If you haven't fished with these bladed lure types before, the retrieve is really simple. Watch your line as that lure sinks, and it tells you the moment it hits the bottom. They're quite heavy, so the moment they do hit the bottom, your line slackens. The moment it slackens, you just lift them up off the bottom. They do most of the work for you. They vibrate as they lift. You lift them about 1 metre or so off the bottom, get to the top, let them go back down again. That's about as simple as it gets. And that being said, they are a pretty versatile lure choice. You can slow roll them, you can jig them a bit, but if you want to keep it nice and simple, slow lift up, drop them back down, put them in the right spot, and they are very good at getting the attention of fish just because they agitate fish with that intense vibration. I reckon, mate, there's going to be something down there. Oh yes, it's going to go. No, it's going to go, it's going to go. Hasn't woken up yet.
On the drop too.
What do you call it, mate? Oh, hello.
Oh, hello. It's
no, it hasn't woken up yet. No, it's not. Big golden as well.
What I was doing there was, we just come up to a bommy and I cast out and let it hit the bottom, and all I was doing was slowly lifting the rod up, winding up the slack, and it just, what it does is it splits up. Looks like a wounded bait fish scurrying off the bottom. And then as I'm on the drop, it just went, all the line went tight and I struck, and here we are now. The advantages of having a nice soft tip on this rod, especially when using blades, is that the fish, when it shakes his head, it absorbs the shock. Just have a go at the size of this. He's still a bit green. He's still got a, you see this bait, he'll go. There you go.
Oh, it's not a goldie. I think it's a permit.
Oh, it's a permit! No wonder it went hard.
Oh, how good's that? These are hard fish to catch. Look at that. Look at that. Let's bring him round. You got him well hooked, mate. He sucked that in. Oh, Adrian!
Yes!
I don't know how far I did, but I got a handful of fish. How good is that? That is magnificent. So many anglers tour the world hunting for these, mate. A lot of them do it on fly. You've hooked it somewhat uniquely. You've used a TT 1.5 ounce blade, in magic little colour around here, white and red head. Fishing a little 8-9 metre patch of ground, little bommy. And these are perfect lures for jigging up and down on the bottom.
Exactly.
Because that intense vibration stimulates the attention of any of these sort of predators. Mate, I reckon we get that out quickly.
I will.
Get a snap and get him in the drink, because that is a very, very special fish. All right, mate. Okay. Hello, little mackerel. Mackerel on blades. It's different. I think it's possibly what chased you up. I'm guessing you've got about a 55 centimetre school mackerel. Because where there's one, there's usually some more. You right, the big fella?
Yeah, mate. Yeah, mate, just grab it.
There you go, there you go. Let's get this in. Come across a nice patch of birds there. The boys had their eyes out. And we come up to work a little bit of surface activity. And quite often we throw slugs or soft plastics at them, but today we're really mucking around with different ways of fishing these big style blades, because they certainly get responses from a lot of predators. And these guys, one of the mackerel family, obviously bunches of these guys, and the Spaniards and the other spotties, and those guys get a lot bigger. But it's in their nature to eat things that vibrate and come whizzing past them, so I'll get that little blade out. Cool. There's a little thing, sometimes you do hold fish upside down, they tend to go a bit quiet for you. And see you later. Come on, Holmes. Oh. Yep, gotcha. Couple of goes at it. Oh, those are long tails too. Get over top of it. Go, go. A little mackerel out of it. School mackerel. Interesting way of catching these. We're trying to chase some fish that are busting up on the top, but as we get close to them, they tend to get a bit boat shy and go down. What we're doing, because we're using these big heavy lures, we can cast way past where the fish are busting up. And if they have gone down, we simply let that lure get to bottom before we crank it up, so we bring it up through the water column. They're a little bit less suspicious of it, and we tend to find that sometimes these mackerel are actually sitting underneath the tuna. So just plan your approach a little bit to fish that are doing that, particularly, and then using a lure choice like this, which is nice and heavy. Cast far, let it sink, and it brings about the undoing of some of these guys, which are a whole lot of fun, particularly on this like here. Making some good casts at times when you're doing this, so you don't get your boat too close to fish, which means you need to think through some of the tackle you're using to help us with that casting, as well as having the guts to land fish. We're loading up our outfits with 20 and 30 pound braided line, so you've got really nice fine diameter, no stretch, means you can cast these things a mile. You've also got plenty of strength, like 20, 30 pound braid will very often break around 50 pounds, so you've got plenty of strength. It's also fine diameter, lets you cast. To finish that off, we're using 2 metres of 30 and 40 pound leader. Fluorocarbon gives a little bit more abrasion resistance. And obviously our Tackle Tactics 1 ounce blade on the end. The other thing too, there's a whole series of these toe points sitting on top of the lure, and they're there for a specific design purpose that, depending on where you rig your attachment up to, got a nice big solid snap there, depending where you locate that, it means you can fish the lure slightly differently. For your higher speed stuff, it's nice in these front 2 holes. But if you're jigging, or you want to slowly roll these, by that just slow down your retrieve, helps to start putting them into these more rear toe points. And what that does is it lets the lure pick up a slightly more vertical position in the water, and lets you slow down your retrieve and still keep that lure vibrating. So it's a clever bit of design, but it's there for a purpose. And you can fish them so many different ways. Like, we can jig them up off the bottom in deep water, or you can high speed spin them like we're doing here. What a wonderful lure to have in the tackle box. Yep, on the drop. Oh yeah, this is a better one, eh? Oh, that'll put one in the tail. Oh dear, oh dear. That was a case of chasing fish on the top and letting those lures sink down around the bottom where we're starting to presume, and I think quite rightly so, that there's some better fish sitting around down deep. By having a lure choice which lets you get down there and something that vibrates and you can retrieve quickly means you can target those bigger fish around the bottom successfully. Getting them back, another ball game. Oh dear, now we're in trouble. Now there'll be no chasing because one will go that way and the other one's going to go that way. Good on you, Adrian. What are we going to do now?
I can't let you have the limelight all the time. What we saw was tuna just busting this bait ball up. So we came up, we stopped, we just drifted in, they actually fed towards us. So then we put cast at either side of the bait ball, let it sink down, engaged, burnt it, as in wound really fast, and that they hit actually on the drop. So once we stopped winding, the lure dropped back, they hit it and took off.
Oh, they're big goldies. I thought it was a tuna, but it's not. There you go, there's the benefits. We were talking before about all the predators which hang around the bait balls and they've all got their order. Here's a big golden followed by another big golden. So this blade has cruised down alongside a bait ball and been sucked in by this guy. There you have it. Big chunk of golden. That's a lovely golden trevally which has been joined the rest of the predators feeding off this bait that's sitting around us at the moment. There's all sorts of activity going on. There's looks like mac tunas, a few longtails jumping, there's small school mackerel cruising around, and there's these guys sitting down the bottom. By using a different lure choice, we've been able to get down and target some of these other species. What a whole lot of fun. I'll get him back in the water. Lovely. All right, spear this guy down. He wants to go. All right, see you later. I'll go and help this other loser out up the front of the boat now. Well done, mate.
No worries.
That's fantastic. Shows you what you get around these big bait balls, eh? You
do,
bust up
mate.
everything. The whole queue of predators is here. Your little white and orange. You like that colour, don't you?
I do, mate. It's as I said before, it's one of my favourite colours, and especially in soft plastic.
Let's get a quick photo and get him back in the water, eh? Don't like keeping these ones out of the water too long. Any picks? Right. Well, there's a couple of TT 1.5 ounce switchblades, which we've just successfully fished a morning with, and we've targeted fish both in patches of reef on the bottom with a nice jigging retrieve, and then we've also gone and chased fish that are feeding around bait balls with high speed retrieves and pauses and stops, and the battle scars on these lures are showing the signs that they certainly are a favourite with the predators out there. And such a versatile lure choice, I think. If you're after a lure which will do a whole range of things and is very attractive to those bigger critters which live offshore, you go a lot worse than sticking a couple of these 1.5 ounce switchblades in your tackle box. Get in amongst them.
We all love our estuary fishing, and there's no more pleasurable way to catch bread and butter species than to do so on the surface. Let's join Rod and the crew as they show us some great surface fishing technique.
Hi guys, I'm Roderick Walmsley from Fish Tech Solutions. We're on one of the northern New South Wales rivers of Australia, having a crack at some of the Australian bread and butter species, namely bream and whiting. We're going to be trialling some of the new OSP lures, the Torre range of braids and the Palms rods, and just spent a morning on the water, myself and Peter Herbst, one of our pro staff anglers, and see if we can piece together a few fish. It's a nice day for it, so we'll get out there and have some fun. Nah, flatted. Flatted on the bent minnow.
Just threw this bent minnow, I put in a couple of centimetres of water and just worked it across the surface, gave it a bit of a pause, and this flathead's jumped up and sucked it in. Very small surface strike, but good flatty. When you're fishing these shallow flats, you want to try and get a nice long cast to work with the wind if you can. Get the lure right out, start bringing it in quite fast, keep your rod tip high, give it a bit of a shake to get the lure to dance across the surface, and fish will come up behind it. Unlike a bream, you might stop and have the fish grab it. You basically want to keep the lure moving as fast as you can, or the same pace, and the fish will usually come up and smash it when it's moving, which is good. Just bringing this bent minnow across the shallow flat. Unlike your bream, you want to keep this lure moving quite fast. The more faster the sort of retrieve, the more excited they get, and the surface strikes are pretty spectacular when they take it.
The key to fishing these flats is really getting the lure as far away from the boat as possible. And to do that, we use really fine diameter braids. The braid I'm using today is Torre sea bass. It's a finesse braid. So you've got a really thin diameter for breaking strain. Light leader, probably twice the length of your rod, 1.5 times the length of the rod, just to keep that braid visibly away from your lure. And any little corrugations on these sand flats, so make a big long cast across a sand flat with corrugations in, even if you can find one that's got yabby holes, something that will bring the whiting onto that flat. And then just work your lures through that area, and once you've done a few drifts through that sand flat, you'll actually find a bit of a sweet spot. So there'll be one area of the sand flat that seems to be holding the whiting, and then just keep working that over, give it a little bit of a break. Just keep punching out those long casts, working those lures really quickly, and hopefully you can catch a few. Something that simulates a skipping prawn or a skipping baitfish, we're using those OSP bent minnows. And that's got a really nice darting action, hopping around. And you'll actually see those whiting peel off a fair distance away and start chasing your lure, and then you just want to concentrate on keeping that retrieve steady. And as soon as that fish bites, just lean back. Don't go too hard on the fish so you don't pull the hooks, and yeah, you can actually get a reasonable feed of good size whiting by doing this. They go all right, these whiting. This is a fairly reasonable one. You just smash that bent minnow off the surface, lure out away from the boat, a nice long cast over the flat, really fast skipping retrieve, and this whiting's just come up and smashed it. You can see he sort of tried to grab it, and as he's grabbed it, it's hooked him under the chin, so he's actually come up out of the water to grab it. And yeah, that's a really good size whiting. It'd probably be up around 35 to 37 centimeters. And you get a couple of nice fillets of him if you wanted. If you didn't, you just release them in good health, and yeah, get back out there. Oh, got
Brembo.
him! Brembo.
Yeah, Brembo. I paused it for a second. Oh, he's not a bad fish.
Yeah, nice bream off the flats. So a good time to catch these whiting is as that tide's getting up, so about probably, the first bit of the run in tide, depending on the depth of the flats, you can start on the outside, and as that tide's working in, these whiting will be moving back up on those flats to feed, especially where there's yabbies, and you can sort of follow them up, working those outside of those flats, and as the tide gets higher, they'll move right up into the shallows, and you can be fishing in 1/2 foot to 1 foot of water if you can get your boat in there, and if you can't, just hang out a bit wider and make those long casts. But as soon as you can get up in amongst those shallow flat areas where there's yabbies or bits of weed, that's when you want to be getting in there. And this is the type of fish you can be catching. Here we go, Pete's on behind us just there on another one. So we'll get him back in the water and get straight back out there. There you go, mate. Pete's got another nice one. Sweet.
Start off the day today fishing a little bit cleaner water at the mouth of the river, and a lot of follows, basically not a lot of fish eating. We've moved up the river now to a more discoloured area with a lot of fast current running over it. The fish are a lot more active coming up, hitting the lure a lot harder. Follows are now more strikes and they're more comfortable eating in the sturdier water, so it's something to look forward to, or look for when you're going fishing for these whiting.
And that cleaner water would probably have fished well, Pete, if we had a bit of wind on it maybe, but
yep.
Just something to churn it up a bit and give those fish a little bit more cover when they're hunting. So, just keep an eye, just because, any flat is not the same. Some flats will obviously fish better than others, and like we saw that cleaner water and the fish were a bit shy, so if we had 15 knots or 20 knots of wind on top of that, then those fish would probably been a lot more aggressive and a lot more confident eating the lures, whereas here they don't have any wind to sort of give them that confidence. They've just got a bit dirtier water, so moving up the river and having a look for different areas can also still get you amongst the fish. There's one, got him.
Nice.
Oh, he's got friends. Oh, double,
yes.
Yeah. There you go, there's two nice whiting. So we've had a pretty good day today on the water fishing these bent minnows, and we've caught flathead, whiting, bream. We've even seen flute fish and some other species have a crack at them. Basically, the bent minnows come in three sizes. This is the 76, the smallest one. Then we've got the 86 and then the 106. Range of species, bass, jacks, trevally. You pretty much just about anything that's out there that'll eat a lure will eat one of them. And it is a really unique lure with that bent shape, and it gives that really erratic action, and it's the erratic action that actually makes them so effective. Doesn't require a lot of rod work to get them going. A few flicks of the rod and they'll have that action. Pause, constant retrieve. It's pretty much very versatile and you can do a lot with them. So we'll get these fish back in the water and we'll see if we can catch a few more species with our bent minnows today.